back, everybody, to the Helplink Show. It is June 2020, and we've got some very, very interesting and enlightening talks coming up. One is with Robert, who is a lead facilitator of SOS, or Suicide or Survive, a mental health organisation supporting people through training. So some really fascinating stuff going on in there, and we're going to learn all about that in a few minutes. We're also going to then have a short enough piece from an interview that I recorded a few weeks ago with one of our play therapists, Daly, and just having a quick chat about supporting your child and young person during this COVID-19 situation and through these phases. I think you'll get a lot out of these two interviews, and hopefully you'll have some information that will help you and your loved ones deal with your mental health and emotional well-being during these times. I wanted to just have a quick say about something that's currently going on in government and mental health reform, our national body that are advocates for the implementation for Vision for Change document, which is a mental health document about our whole basic mental health system and how it works. So recently they have published a piece around basically getting the refresh of the Vision for Change throughout the Dáil and getting it passed and moved forward, which will make significant differences and changes for all of us within society when it comes to mental health. So just a small quote from their website just about this, where it says, there's clear support for immediate publication of the refresh of a Vision for Change across the Dáil. The mental health policy is critical to the programme for government's talks and post-COVID-19 planning. Mental health reform sent a letter to Minister Harris and Minister Daly, which was co-signed by cross-party TDs. The letter said, "Dear Ministers Harris and Daly, following Minister Harris's statements in the Dáil on May 14th and 21st expressing eagerness to engage with parties on when the refresh of Vision for Change should be published, we are writing to inform you that we believe the refresh of a Vision for Change should be published immediately. The publication of the refresh is urgent both in the context of the programme for government talks and to allow for the immediate and cohesive post-COVID-19 planning for mental health services and support across the country." And that was signed by Mental Health Reform, but also then by a good few different cross-party TDs, such as James Brown from Fianna Fáil, Pat Buckley from Sinn Féin, Matty McGrath, Independent, Dennis Naughton, Independent, Carol Nolan, Independent, Roisin Shortall from Social Democrats, and Oisin Smith from the Green Party. Just some of the people very interested in seeing a Vision for Change being refreshed, and really us as a country taking a serious look at how we deliver mental health services and how we engage people in those services. And hopefully now the rest of the TDs and the caretaker government will make sure that this Vision for Change, the refresh, is published, and we really start planning. Now is the opportunity for us to plan as a country how we're going to deal with mental health into the future, and working with a Vision for Change is one of the ways to do that. So just to get back to, just wanted to inform you about that, what was going on kind of at a national level when it comes to mental health in Ireland. And so like I was saying at the very start, I think this is going to be a really good show, and you're going to get a really good understanding of what goes on in Suicide or Survive, the programs they have, and also you'll get a really good insight into Robert's life as well, and how he has dealt with mental health, his own mental health and the mental health of others along the way. So and then also the piece from Carol as well, hopefully will be quite enlightening when it comes to supporting your kids during this time. So that's about it. We'll probably have a song as well somewhere along the line. And thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much to our partner radio stations such as Flirt FM, the Castlebar FM, CRC FM, then you've got ACR, which is the Athlone Community Radio. You have charityradio.ie, a national station. You have Irish Radio Canada. You have Connemara FM. You have Ross FM as well for Roscommon. And lots more radio stations taking up the show as we go along, which is great. So thanks very much for listening, and here we go with the interview with Robert from Suicide or Survive. So everybody, welcome to the Helplink Show, and it is May 2020, and we're still in this strange COVID-19 land. And I suppose that's part of the reason why I wanted to invite on a representative from this organization we're going to talk to next, to see kind of, I suppose, what is going on in mental health organizations during this time, and how they're supporting people right across the nation. I'm delighted to have on the line Robert, who is a lead facilitator with the SOS team, which is the Suicide or Survive organization. Robert, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Lachlan. Happy lockdown to you.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, we have to take the positives in these things. I think
make it a season.
Definitely. It's one of the best ways, I suppose, we can look after our mental health is by trying to see the positives in things and trying to see the opportunities in things. I mean, dwelling on the negatives for the most part can really affect our mental health. So definitely we need to be a bit more lighthearted about things, and we need to try and see the blue sky amongst the clouds during this time, and afterwards, of course, as well. Suicide or Survive. This is an organization that has been around for quite a while. What is Suicide or Survive?
So Suicide or Survive. I'll give you a little bit of background. We're in the mental health arena, I'd say, for probably 20 years. It was started by an incredible woman called Caroline McGuigan. And it started, Lachlan, from her own personal journey. So Caroline, about 20 years ago, went through quite a severe dip in her mental health, which, and she openly shares her own story. So not betraying any confidences. So she would have started with, strange feelings, followed by strange thoughts, followed by dark thoughts, followed by despair, leading her to contemplating suicide, leading her to actually completing suicide, would you believe?
Right.
Being brought to A&E and being brought back to life in A&E, and found herself in the recovery room the next day thinking, well, what am I here for? Yeah. And on reflection of her journey, she kind of, through that process ended up being offered counselling by accident, and found that really worked. That changed the game, that changed her whole view, gave her a new zest for life. And she was kind of going, why did I not get this or access this 7 years ago, 8 years ago? So her passion then became like, she did not want anyone else to go through what she went through. She wanted to be able to signpost people to what is available and what you can do, and that, to learn that, and I think it's in mental health recovery, it would be a common thing among us all to say that people can and do recover and do go on to have a full and meaningful life. And that was Caroline's passion. So she said about, you see, for a lot of this stuff, and you'll know yourself from working in the mental health arena, is a lot of it is because people just don't know.
Yeah,
I think if I was to say what are the two biggest problems, is everyone thinks that the first and they're alone, and the second thing is no one knows where to go when it happens. So at that stage, and this is 20 years ago, no one talked about mental health. It was like, your auntie had trouble with her nerves was about as close as you got to acknowledging that some people struggle. Yeah. And she said about setting up an organization that would be passionate about breaking the stigma. So I suppose if I was to share what we would call our goal, we would always say that we want to put in the hands of people the tools to help them improve their own mental health. Okay. We want to break stigma so that we create a society that does encourage help-seeking behaviour, and that there is no stigma surrounding mental health. And I suppose that what we want is that people would talk about their mental health in as relaxed terms as they talk about their dental health. with no shame and no judgment. And that's so then over the next 20 years, and we're in existence 20 years. I think we became a limited company and registered charity 17 years ago. So and we're one of the few charities who are triple locked, so we've all the governance and all the stuff in place with the charities regulator. So Caroline was really forensic about making sure that we were leading with that stuff. And then she gathered people to her with similar passions, and people from from the psychology world, and people from the psychotherapy world, and trainers and deliverers, and people who had a passion. And I suppose what makes us different is people who are okay sharing their own life story. Right. So we always say, I won't share anything with you that I don't do myself. So there's no point. I always say when I'm sharing on webinars, I always say, look, there's no point in me telling you to do something if I'm not doing it. So it would be like me saying to you, Lachlan, there's a fantastic restaurant down there. You should drop down there, have your dinner down there. And you're going, what's it like? And then I go, well, I've never eaten there. So it's like, and it's kind of the same. If people are telling you to do stuff, it's not real if they're not doing it themselves. So every one of our facilitators, like, to actually be on our panel, you have to be a practicing person who's looking after their own wellness. And it doesn't mean we've all had various dips and jumps. They don't have to be as critical as Caroline's was. But look, we work on the basis that absolutely, there's this thing that's thrown around, and it's become kind of, it's become currency. And the accepted truth is that 1 in 4 people have an issue with their mental health.
Yeah, this drives me mad. This drives me mad. It
So
literally does. I just don't get it. I mean, everybody has mental health ups and downs in their life.
And I think that's and it's brilliant to hear you say that. So thank God we're not on the low. We're not the low.
You're not at all. No.
So I always say, look, to say 1 in 4 people have an issue. Now, I know maybe when it started, people were saying 1 in 4 people have a problem. And, I don't even know if that statistic is true. But to say I always go, it's like saying 1 in 4 car owners has a maintenance issue. Yeah. And the other 3 can just run the car itself. Or 1 in 4 householders never have to paint the house. It's only the one that has the maintenance. I look at mental health maintenance pretty simple. Like, it's a very fickle and very delicate, but a magnificent tool. But it needs maintenance, and it needs repair. And sometimes springs are going to go, or it'll need oiling, or it'll need to rest, or some bits will need replacing. And I treat my mental health exactly the same as that. Some days I get up and it's a little bit rusty, and I come out, I need a bit of oil today. Or sometimes it's flying on all cylinders, and I'm like, that's a great day. And when you treat it like that, so look, no one ever goes, I might clean my teeth today, and sure, well, I did it 3 weeks ago. What's the point in doing it today? Like, we get up every day, we clean it in the morning, and we clean it in the evening, because it's part of life. And if we can make mental health maintenance like that, that would be brilliant. And SOS, we would say we don't save lives. We wouldn't be arrogant enough to say we save lives. We say we give people the tools to preserve their own life. And that's the space we operate in, and we've a number of programs in the pre-COVID world. I can tell you about those programs. So let's go through a few of those. That would be great. One of the things that you just to go back to a little bit where you were saying there, and it's one of the things that I think a lot of people kind of really kind of grasp as well, is that when you're having a really good day. And when the car, in this analogy, when the car is working really, really well, you should still be checking in with the car and to see if everything is all right, if everything's topped up and that kind of stuff. Like, because no matter if you have a really good day, to go back to a human analogy, it's always really good to be mindful of the really good and positive experience that you've had. So you can be able to look back on that then in the future when there are times aren't as good. Yeah, absolutely. And even as you're saying that, you're making me think, like, because what can happen, like, if you had 5 or 6 really good days on the trot, it's like saying, well, I just keep driving the car because it's going well, isn't it? That's exactly what you're saying. It's like, I'll just keep driving it. We're having a great time. And then, and this is how I drive. I'm a terrible motorist. Okay. So I the little lights that come on your panel to tell you something's amiss. Okay, so my car starts with an orange light, which is kind of like, Rob, you might need oil, right?
You might not, but you might.
Yeah, right. But I ignore that because it's not. Well, it's only orange, right? So then the next stage is red. It's like, Rob, you definitely need oil. And to be honest with you, to my shame as a motorist, I sometimes ignore that red light. And
Oh,
right,
dear.
and then it becomes a flashing red light. And then eventually a sign comes up, on the dashboard says, get to the garage, right?
Yeah.
And if I don't acknowledge that one, the car stops. And then you have some mechanic towing you off the road going, did you not see any lights? And I'm going, no, didn't see any lights. And I do that with my mental health. And I think a lot of us do, to be honest with you, Lachlan, that,
it's a natural thing to do, but I suppose the main thing is, and from what I gathered from what you guys are doing, is that you're empowering people to recognize that those red lights and those orange lights need to be looked at.
Absolutely. And if you do it well, the orange light doesn't even come on. Do you know what I mean? If you actually, that you're just you're scanning your dashboard to see is there a light. And if you do the maintenance things, the lights should never come on. And really I suppose that's probably the perfect analogy for what we're trying to do, and is what you're saying. We're teaching people, when you see a light, what can you do? What can you do to stop it getting to an orange light? And if it's at orange, how could you stop it going to red? And don't panic if it goes to red, because you're still okay. There's still help. And there's other, so when my car breaks down, I wouldn't for a second try and lift the bonnet and fix it. Yeah. I'll call in someone who knows what they're talking about. And that's why
an expert, exactly.
Yeah. And in my life, I've had to, and I still do it, I've had to go to counsellors and say, I need to talk to you. I don't really understand what's going on in my head. Can you help me lift the bonnet? Maybe you'll point out some stuff that I can say, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. I didn't put the water in. It's like and really, my own journey, I've traveled through my own journey to become, I think I've ended up training as a psychotherapist. And that's, that kind of happens a lot of people on their own journey when you start looking at your own heart and life. Yeah. Because I've had my own skip through life as well. I would always share, sorry, excuse me. I would always, see, here's where the realness of the SOS programs comes in. Most programs when I open, I said, let me just tell you this up straight. I've had 3 serious dips in my mental health. Right? And that kind of people go, oh. So I say, when I was in my teenage years, I went through massive panic attacks. Lachlan, I didn't know what they were because no one talked about them. I actually thought I was joking one day in work. I thought I was having a heart attack another day. I would sweat. I would want to leave the room, and I worked in a bank at the time, and you wouldn't say to anyone, I think I'm struggling, because you would have been put on a project or sidelined, or that would have been the end of your career. So no one, you just struggled through it. Yeah. Actually, the funny thing, I was working in town at the time, and I don't know if you're adult, but I was saying, I was talking at school one day, and I said, and I got so frightened, I went down to Jervis Street to get checked out. Right. And this kid goes, what were you doing in the shopping centre? I was trying to explain to him that when I was a kid, Jervis Street was a hospital. What were you doing in the shopping centre? So anyway, but I would go down and get checked out. And then, and looking back now, I had a crazy lifestyle. I was very involved in drama at the time, in theatre. It was a big passion of mine. So I would work the bank job during the day, and then I'd be out doing plays and rehearsing and on the lash at night time. So I ran myself into the ground. Yeah. But no one told me that your body can only take so much, right? Yeah. So I ended up exhausted and get the panic attacks. I kind of changed my lifestyle, which eased. Then in my middle 30s, I think it was 36 or 7. Yeah. 5 kids, lovely wife, lovely house, lovely mortgage, big job in the bank, and woke up one day and I was like, oh, what's this all about? And within a few weeks, I kind of spiraled down into a really dark depression. Which at the time I didn't realize what it was. I just knew that when I got up in the morning, I just didn't want to get out of the bed. When I got I had to work twice as hard to get half as much done. I was always 4 times as tired. I'd know that, that zest for life. I'd know I didn't want to get involved in anything. I just was like, oh, whatever. It's just, and my wife at the time, Jean, she was my number one encourager. So every day she'd just say to me, Rob, tomorrow might be better. Right. And that lasted for 8 or 9 months. I think it lasted for about 9 months. Wow! And I remember the day it came, and I remember the day it left, which is really weird. It was like I always describe it as like a wet blanket just landed on me, and then it lifted. And then the third time, which was really my third big one, and this is probably the biggest one, is in 2011. That girl Jean, who I met in school, when I was 13, stuck out with her when I was a big man at 16, and. We got married at 23 with the 5 kids before we were 30. And when she was 49, she had a massive aneurysm, and I lost her. So we were together for 36 years. And Lachlan nearly killed me. It broke my heart. It was like, it was, and I went through a real identity thing, because when you're with someone that long, we were known as Rob and Jean. There was no Rob, there was no Jean, and I didn't know who I was. Who's Rob, right? And I had a year of, now, thank God, with the help of my friends and with counselling and with love and with care, and at that stage, like, I knew a lot of stuff about mental health. So on this third occasion, I had the tips, the tools, and the techniques to help myself. Didn't make it easy, but at least, I mean, we would often say on our mental health stuff, mental health maintenance is simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
So, like, we all know, like, putting oil in your car is simple, right? But getting out in the wet and getting out and buying it and getting yourself messy and opening the boot on it and putting in, there you go, there's my car, opening the boot to put in the oil. That's how bad I am, right? Open the bonnet. Open the bonnet and putting in the oil. So mental health maintenance is the same. It's simple, but it's not easy. So I had to really be strict with myself and kind of, every now and again, kind of say, cop yourself on, Rob. Like, this is, you need to get out of the bed now and go down and go for a walk, or you need to listen to, you need to stop listening to the sad music because it's killing you. Go downstairs and watch comedy, or so it's funny things like that, because we do like an old pity party. Yes. We do like a little bit of sit there and, poor me. There's a bit of that in me as well.
And that needs to happen too. As well. Unfortunately, like you were saying there, sometimes that can actually become a spiral.
Yeah, and it's the length of your pity party you have to mind, isn't it? It's not the
not the party itself.
Party. How long it lasts and how many you have. I think that was my operate when we had one of these already this week. You can't be having one every day. And look, life, and just for people listening, just to encourage them, life comes around. Now, I met, about a year and a half later, I met an extraordinary woman who allowed me to be brokenhearted and yet held me, and I've married her. Her name is Karen, and we are living the life, and I actually can't think of anyone I'd rather be locked in with. So so even that piece of hope for people, kind of saying, look, in that really dark day when I got that phone call from James's hospital to say Jean was on life support, I was like, there's no way back from this. And here I am, very, very happy. Do I still miss Jean? 100%.
Of course.
I, sometimes I think about it, and I'm actually, ironically, would you believe, I'm in the room that myself and Jean was our bedroom. That's where I am talking to you today. So it's kind of unusual that I'm talking about her. And behind me on the wall, there's a little thing that says love. And I think I have this operating thing in my own life, and it's this truth that love never fails. So I always think, people say, what do you think the answer is? And I 100% always go, I think the answer is love. Right. And it's, if we love ourselves, or if we love each other, or that's, so if my answer, so I've had a good few friends who've struggled really badly, and all I can give them is love, but it never fails, because it's remember I said to Eugene, you say to me, tomorrow might be better. Yeah. That was love that was saying that. When Karen found me in that state where I was kind of broken, it was love that made her go, I'll walk beside you for a while if you want, if this helps. When my kids, and I have 5 kids, and they've all, kids growing up, there's a struggle at some stage with them all. And all of them, all I could give them was love, and just say, listen, I'm here for you. I can't imagine what you're feeling, but I can tell you I'm here for you. And I think it's that love piece. And it just,
very important.
And I was raised in a family that was full of love, and that was and like massively. And that's not everyone. When I say that, I'm always a little bit nervous, because it's not everyone's experience. Like, some people don't, but that stops you loving yourself. And I always say, just start there. Start with kind of learning to love yourself.
Start with yourself, and through that. And through that, then you have in SOS, you have quite a few programs that does exactly that. Helps people to begin to maybe love themselves again, or at least love their mental health again, and see it as something that can be very powerful.
If you're listening, you can just, if you Google suicidesurvive.ie, they'll see the full description of the program. But I'll give you a little brief one, because I know.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So a brief. So we have like we call the mothership, which is where it started, which was Caroline's first journey. Was this? We have a program called the Eden program, which is for people who have suicidal ideation or have attempted suicide. So it's people who are on the lower end of the wellness line.
Can I just ask you there, Robert?
Yeah.
Because for some of the listeners, maybe they might know what ideation is. Can you describe what that suicidal ideation is?
What is that? Is that like when we hear Caroline's story, what she says is she was struggling through life and she was having, panic attacks and anxiety and strange jumbled thoughts. And then one day a thought came into her head, you'd be better off dead.
Ah, okay.
So it's just that thought, you'd be better off dead. And in her story, and it's when you hear her story, it's so moving. She says, and it frightened me. The first time I heard it, it frightened me, right? And that fear of, oh my God, did I actually think that, right?
Yeah.
And then she said, the next time it came back, it wasn't so frightening. And then there came a time when it became comforting, right?
Oh,
So that kind of, the fear of, you'd be better off dead. Suddenly, that's not a bad idea. So that now, listen, here's the crazy thing, Lachlan. Like, the World Health Organization would say that 5% of every population has suicidal ideation every day.
Every day? Wow. Okay.
So in Ireland, if you put that in numbers, in terms of numbers, that means you could fill Croke Park 3 times every morning.
Gosh. Yeah.
So so when people say, do we need to do more work for mental health in this country? Of course we do. Now, we're doing a lot, and the government are doing a lot. And so I'm not knocking the government, just we need to do more. It's like, we need to do more. So so if that's the number, so if you think 240,000 people waking up in the morning thinking, jeez, maybe I'd be better off getting out of here, right? So now, not all those people will act on it, and that's the important
exactly.
thing. Suicidal ideation is just a passing thought. It's not like, I'm not saying for a second that 5% of people will choose to end their lives, but it's worth knowing that there's that many people who might need someone to say tomorrow might be better. So
exactly.
So
thanks for that.
So in that space, the Eden program, and really, I always say to people, the clue is probably in our names. I was trying to describe this. I was in the States a couple of months ago doing work for SOS, would you believe, and they said to me, just why do you call yourself that name? Because it's a very stark name. Like, it's very unattractive. Right? So I was like, okay, that's very hurtful. It's like,
I think it's very powerful, to be honest, but there you go.
Why'd you call yourself Robert? It's a horrible name. It's like, so I was like, no, well, let me tell you this. I said, here's the thing. If we don't name suicide, who is going to name it? Like, if we don't bring it out of the dark and hidden recesses, who's going to speak it out loud? And if we don't speak it out loud, that builds into the stigma. And then honestly, there's the choice for anyone who hears that little voice says, you'd be better off dead. It's suicide or survive. That's where it comes from. Okay.
Yeah.
And what I say to people is, like, we don't judge anyone, right? We would kind of go, like, suicide is actually a choice, right? And sometimes I hear people and people say, why do you think they did that? It's very selfish. And I'm going, oh my God, if you knew the pain that person was in, if you knew the turmoil that was going on in their head and their heart, if you knew how hard it is to be in that space, you'd never say that was very selfish. You'd kind of go, you'd always go, that was very sad. You might say that was unfortunate. And I would hope it would make you go, we need to do something about this. So I describe it as, when people are afraid to come out and say, I'm actually having thoughts of suicide, because most people jump on them and go, that's ridiculous. Stop that. You can't be doing that. Don't be saying that, right?
Yeah.
And if you stop that, we'll get you help. So
and that's another piece of learning actually for people as well, is how to react to somebody who's actually saying this as well.
And look, Lachlan, it's scary. When someone tells you, I'm not saying for a second, if someone says to you, listen, I'm thinking of ending my life, like, it's frightening. Honestly, God, I still get frightened. And like, so I say to people, like, don't be worrying. I get frightened when I hear it, because it's life. You're looking at someone's life and you're going to go, no, listen. So if I could describe it like this, the normal reaction to suicide is to say to someone who you see struggling in the sea, right? And they're clinging onto a bit of wood, and it's all that's keeping them up, okay? And it's like standing at the side saying, if you throw away that wood, we'll come in and rescue you. We'll bring you a life jacket, okay? So that's the normal reaction, okay? So the way we operate is, I see you're clinging onto that piece of wood, which is the thought of suicide, the idea that I can end all this through suicide. So we see that piece of wood. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to come out to you with a life jacket.
Yeah.
You can hang onto your piece of wood.
Yeah.
That's your piece of wood. If you're ready, put one hand on the life jacket. You still don't have to let go of the wood. We'll make our way to the shore. Bring the wood with you. If you want to put on the life jacket, that's fine. When we get to the shore, I'm going to show you stuff about staying alive in the sea. And I'm not going to take the wood from you. So it's still yours. And when you're ready, you throw away that wood, right? Yeah. And it's that kind of, like, we're not judging you. We see why you're in that space. Just come with us and hear different ways to stay afloat in that sea.
So not judging and supporting are the key aspects of that, like helping to scaffold the person.
And that program will be a 6-month program where people sign up, and it's not therapeutic. Now, there's a therapeutic element in it, but it's mad. Like it's more educational. Honestly, God, when you tell people like this is what's happening when you think that, there's where that comes from. Can you see where that came from? Look, here's what you do when that happens. Why don't we try this? And people are going like, oh my God, why did no one ever tell me this? Like, why is this not more important than learning geography, history?
I mean, there's a huge call for that, really, to be this should be in schools like all over the place, like.
So that's the Eden program. So that's and that we run. There's one in Dublin at the minute, one in Roscommon, one in Galway, and one in Sligo. And it would be our belief that we could spread that out around the country under franchise when we're working with the HSC to try and do that. And it's because it's such an intimate program. And it's such a confidential program, we can't really promote. It's one of those things you can't promote it too much because it's confidential. And having people who've been on it, and there's hundreds of people gone through it, and it's like one of those programs where most things you'd have an endorsement from a former user. It's like, yes, I went on the mechanics course, it was brilliant. But Eden program, like no one's, we don't even ask people to endorse it. We kind of say, like, you're on your journey and you're moving on, and this was just part of it. So it's an incredible program, and that's what we call the mothership. And then from that, I suppose we stepped it back and kind of said, well, what if we try to help people before it gets that severe? What if we try to help people before it gets to crisis? So we then designed a thing called the Wellness Workshop, which is putting all the tools so people will come when they're not in that crisis situation. I'm trying to teach people, like what I said about dental health maintenance, teach them mental health maintenance, simple stuff, tips, tools, and techniques that they can do on a daily basis. Easy stuff, and normalizing mental health. So it's just like, you're able to say to them, I'm having a rotten day, my head's in a mess, I don't know where I am, bear with me. And if it's really crisis, will you bring me to someone? So the Wellness Workshop was that, like, just that expansion of that. Again, when we deliver the Wellness Workshop, and what we do, we partner with communities. So say the local GAA club would invite us down, then they would fit it, they'd populate the seats with their contacts. We'd bring all our stuff down and work with them. In conjunction with them, we would have some funding from the HSE, which makes that possible for us. And then they might provide the soup and sandwiches at lunchtime at the venue. And honest to God, Lachlan, the crack is brilliant. Like, we just say so. When I say to people, like, we're going to have a fun day, and they're going, well, talk about mental health. And we have them singing and dancing and laughing and rocking and crying and rolling, and like it's a roller coaster of emotions, but it's a brilliant day. It's just a fantastic day. And then from that, we became the first. We became the first organization to get all our facilitators trained as RAP facilitators. So we offer the RAP, which is, I always say to people, it's not teaching you how to sing. It's not that RAP. It's wellness recovery action plans. And that's and we provide them, sometimes you see the cost of them, and some providers you kind of go, should that wreck your mental health if you have to get that money together? Ours is very, very affordable, very low cost. It's never over €100, which is incredible. And we that's the RAP. And then we have our supporters program then, which is the program for. So what we started, people were saying, look, well, I'm doing okay, but my husband is struggling and I'm wrecked looking after him. Or we're doing well and our kids have issues and we're like, we just don't know what to say. We're always saying the wrong thing. And if you say that, it's wrong. If you say that, it's wrong. So we designed a thing called the supporters program, which was, to be honest with John, Caroline's husband, was the one who influenced that the most, because he had been on the journey with Caroline. So he had helped her. So he could say, well, look, there was days when this happened and that was too much for me. So the supporters program is for those people. And then we have our corporate workshops now, where we're helping businesses bring mental health training into their workforce, because what would happen on the community workshops, people are going, well, I'd love to go to it, but I can't because I'm at work. So we're saying, well, look, we have to find a way to get this into the businesses and the corporates.
And also to bring it back to when we were first talking about your experience, that these businesses and corporations and that kind of stuff, they need to understand that how to help their staff and employees rather than to kind of push them to the side or whatever.
Yeah, dismiss them. And two things we always say in the workshop: it's the right thing to do, it's the nice thing to do, and it's the legal thing you have to do. Right. So it's like so we would outline how mental health in the workplace is actually covered by two laws. It's covered by the Discrimination Act, and it's covered by the Disability Act, and it's covered by the Health and Safety at Work Act as well. So there's a legal responsibility on corporates, which quite often is a shock to how you treat people. Like if you discriminate against someone because of their mental health or their wellness, it's as serious as any of the other 8 things that are discriminatory. So it's well worth corporates engaging in, to some level, what do we need to do about better mental health and about the wellness of it. And it's not even, it's an investment. It's not even a spend, because honestly, what we found with the people that we've worked with, it changes the atmosphere in the business. It changes the attitude of, staff to management. It changes the passion. It reduces absenteeism. It reduces presenteeism, which is another thing.
I was going to say, because there's quite a bit of research out there that would show that if you support the mental health of your workers, they'll actually have less sick days and they'll be more present in work themselves and more productive.
So it's and again, what we try to be in SOS, we try to be flexible. So we'd have things like you can't draw a long hard fast line. So no, the program is 3 hours long, and if you don't take the 3-hour version, you can't have anything. Right? You're going to go. We would say, well, what have you got? What can you do? Yeah. And what could we take out? What pieces do you think suits you the most? And we'll try and tailor make that fits, because it's like different people have different demands and doing this. So now what's happened, right? So all of that was community based. So all of that was flesh touching. And free hand sanitizing and social distancing and all those new words that we have. So on the 13th of March, I think we were doing a workshop in Bray in the morning, and by the time we got back to the office, it was like we're going into lockdown. So we had to send all the team home to their own homes, try and find our feet, try and find what are we going to do with this. Now we already had. And if any of your listeners, if you go to wellnessworkshop.ie, there's a full workshop online there, module by module. You can actually go through it. It's like it's a filmed version of a local workshop. Okay. And then there's small videos that people know. So wellnessworkshop.ie. So we had that online. So we're saying, like, let's drive the traffic to that, because people in the lockdown are just thinking, what can I do for my head? Like, this is tough. This is a tough space. So then our next step then was, could we present our workshops by way of webinar? Okay, so this was a whole new world for me. I was like, I love people and I love the reaction of people, and you'd say something funny and you love seeing people laugh and hearing their story, and then they'd share it. I love all that. And then to go and do this mental health educational programs, just talking to a screen is like, that's a bit freaky, and it took me a while to adjust to it. But we've got it going. We have a series of webinars planned. They're up on our website. With the next 7 weeks schedule is up, where we're going to bring modules of what we do in the and it's really working well. Like I said, and they're free. The HSE are funding them, so it's so people can just log on and get some out. So the webinar schedule is on SOS. Is just again the Suicide or Survive.ie website. People can go on there and find out the webinars that are there. You can pop in. And we're learning. So we have some of the backroom team moderate it, and then we have the facilitators front it. And we've learned. We're working really together to get the conversation going on the chat box and getting people to say things. And then if people have private questions, we kind of channel them through the moderators, so it's not in the room. So it's proven, like, and we're now getting, which is always a great thing, we're getting repeat customers. So there's people coming back again, and you're getting to know people who are in. Didn't I see you 3 weeks ago when they said, oh, that's right, thanks for remembering, and people are dropping you emails. So it's brilliant. It's actually now, it'll never replace being in the room.
No, it won't. But I think like most other things now, people have started to realize that to provide something accessibly to people, you need to do a blended version of whatever program you're doing. I think that's the future as well for most people. A lot of things.
The thing is, like, it's because really, if I always hate saying this, right? But like, if mental health was a business, where we need to up our game. Do you know what I mean? So as you say, what options do we give our customers? What options do we give the clients? Are we even listening to them? What way they want it? So that's really the challenge. Like, we're trying to design something and then say, no, let's find something that fits.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of the other way around, you know. So we're learning and we're changing and we're adapting. Would you believe I was online yesterday for 6 different pieces
wow, okay.
of mental health training. And again, the lesson for me, like I was wrecked yesterday. I could hardly think last night, and I was going, you know what, you shouldn't let that happen, Rob. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And that's another learning process we're all kind of going through now as well, isn't it?
You're probably the same. Like, it's just you realize this is more intense than any other style of interaction. Because you have to concentrate. You're looking at the screen. You're very self-conscious about yourself as well all the time. You're kind of thinking, like, you know,
things you usually have a mirror of yourself up there
at work. And then every time you touch your face, you panic because you go, oh my God, that's such a bad example. We're not supposed to touch your faces. And you're going like, no, I disinfected before I came on. So it's just, but it's a funny word. And look, but honest to God, if me being on screen helps anyone in their journey, even to see an orange light or to recognize that's a red light and they need to go and talk to someone, or they need to get the bonnet open and look at their head and heart and try and get them back in unison, that is just, I was just so happy with that. You know?
Exactly. Robert, thank you so much. That's amazing stuff from you guys. We all got a little bit of an insight into what goes on in the programs within Suicide or Survive. And as Robert mentioned there, they're currently running a series of webinars that people can join. So you go to their website, which is suicideorsurvive.ie, and there's lots of information there on that and the other programs they're providing. Robert, thank you so much for coming on to the Helplink Show. Really appreciate it.
Problem. Stay safe and hold firm. I think that's what we say now, isn't it?
This is it, yeah. Hold firm. It's a hold firm, exactly. Brilliant stuff. So everybody, there you go. That was Robert, lead facilitator with Suicide or Survive, giving us a short enough insight into what is going on within that organisation, that charity that's really helping a lot of people out across the island of Ireland. So we thank him very much for coming on. Welcome everybody to these special editions of the Helplink Show. Lachlan here, hopefully providing you with some information from our counsellors and therapists during this time that might help you while you're at home. Today we have one of our play therapists, Carol Daly, on the line with us. Carol, thank you so much for coming on.
It's a pleasure to be here.
No problem, Carol. Thank you. So, Carol, you're a play therapist. And that a job in itself can be tough enough. But why did you get into this space of play therapy?
I suppose the reason why I was drawn to train as a play therapist was when I was a child, I would have experienced a lot of anxiety, and I really wanted to, I suppose, understand a deeper understanding of anxiety and how to help children. And that was my reason for, I suppose, training as a play therapist.
Yeah, and obviously the training for this is long and comprehensive, and for the kids themselves, does it, being that you're an independent person, you're not mom or dad, you're not some sort of a caregiver that they work with or whatever, you're an independent person, do you find that it takes long for a bond to kind of begin so they can start opening up, or are kids just really easy to open up, or how does that work, do you find?
No, a lot of the time, because I'm a new person in the child's life, it can take a few sessions for the child to feel safe. And that's the most important thing in the therapy. That's why I use a non-directive approach, because when the child comes into the playroom, they get to choose what they want to do. That in turn kind of gives them a chance then to feel safe around me and to build a relationship. And that is the most important part of the play therapy, to build a relationship, because the safer the child feels, begin their process of working through their problems or whatever's upsetting them.
Right. Wow. Okay. So I'm presuming actually during this time that there are a lot of issues coming up. I know, for example, that Childline has seen a massive increase in calls over this space and time, and presumably they'll have more. And we thank them very much for the work they're doing. I mean, having parents at home with the kids on a 24/7 basis must be very, very different for a lot of children around the country, and they might be experiencing, and I suppose the fact that they're not in school anymore, their routines are all over the place. All these things can add to the stress and anxiety for children.
Yeah. So what I would say to parents is, if you are finding it very tough and challenging at this moment in time, it is quite normal, because it is a very challenging situation, and children's frustration and anxiety will be heightened. And what I would say is to, first of all, look after yourself, your own mental health, and take time out for yourself to check in to see how you're feeling, and to try bring calm within yourself. And that in turn then is quite contagious, and it brings calm to everyone around you. To do, I suppose, family board games are brilliant, and they're fun. It's important to bring a little bit of fun at the moment as well. I know it is challenging, but to bring a bit lightheartedness and fun, for yourself and the kids. And I suppose how you can do that is to do something creative yourself. Right. Maybe crafting or painting with the children. And another one is blowing bubbles is actually good for helping you regulate your breath, and for the children as well.
All right. Okay. So
when you're blowing a bubble, you're breathing in and then blowing out. So it's helping you, because a lot of us kind of only breathe as far as our chest, and we don't breathe into our stomach. And especially at this time when there's a lot of anxiety, we forget to breathe. So the bubbles can help with that. Okay,
right. Yeah, and there was another one that I had heard about that works very well with kids. It's called the 5-finger breathing. I think that was the name of it. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. But basically, when as a parent, you get the kid to put their hand up, and then they trace from the bottom of their thumb up to the very, very top. And once they get to the very, very top of the thumb, they've taken a breath in by that time. And then they run the finger down the other side of the thumb up to the other finger, and in between of that, it's kind of hard to describe this on the radio and on a podcast, but basically you kind of like as if they were drawing their hand on a piece of paper. Basically, they're running their hand up the pencil or the finger up in between the fingers and thumb, and whenever they get to the top of the thumb or the top of the finger, they have a breath taken in, and on the other side they release the breath again, and that can help for people to basically regulate their breathing, which regulates their heartbeat, like you were saying with the bubbles and that kind of stuff. And it just basically everybody gets people in a more calmer space where they're able to talk and maybe able to make a decision. And I think also maybe correct me if I'm wrong this, but also it would be really good to establish routines for them.
Yes, of course. And it's important not to be hard on yourself. If you don't, get something done in a day, it can be done tomorrow. But it is important to have some little bit of structure, because children feel safer sometimes in routines, when there's a routine as well. And it's important also to acknowledge your child's feelings at this time, because they may be worried or anxious, and it's just to reflect or to
what do you mean by that? What do you mean by how would one can you give an example of what you mean by that, with acknowledging somebody's feelings, like as a parent?
So I suppose if you notice that your child is very anxious and and they're coming up to you and they need reassurance, you could say, I know you're really worried about what's going on at the moment, and it is very hard for you, but you are safe. To reassure them that they are safe, because, I'm sure the children are feeling, restricted as well, and anxious about what's going on,
Yeah. So it's basically kind of another thing I also learned over the years was is actually getting down to their level. So if they're
down the ground and playing them,
but even when you're talking to them, like say they're a little bit older, say they're kind of 6, 7, 8, or 9, whatever, kind of going up that way. It's always, instead of talking above them, you sit down at their level as well, like cross your legs or whatever it is you have to do. But you can basically get to their level So, so you're not looking down on them essentially, and that, because I suppose anybody feels uncomfortable with somebody looking down on them and talking to them. Even if you're talking in the nicest possible way, it still feels a little bit awkward. I mean, even as adults, like, you know.
Yeah, and that's one of the important parts of what's involved in the play therapy. In the playroom, we get down to their level, we sit with them, you know, and play with them. That's how it's, well, it's a different kind of playing, obviously, you know.
And but from and also from an emotional aspect, when you're talking at them at eye level, they feel more listened to, I suppose, as well.
More heard. It's so important that a child feels seen, heard, understood, and cared for. And when you get down to that level and you really see them, you know, it also helps alleviate a lot of behaviors, because sometimes in life a child is just crying out to be seen or heard.
Right.
Yeah, they're coping, you know, mechanisms. And I suppose some children go in and some children act out. Every child is different.
And you mean by go in, you mean they go into themselves, is it?
Like that they might go, I suppose, find it difficult socializing, or maybe interacting with other kids, and they might isolate and play on their own, and then other kids might act out, as in hit out, or you know,
verbally and everything, for verbally and physically, like, so there are signs to watch out for with your kids during this time, during any time, but especially during this time. Is the signs to look out for is if they become very, very quiet and insular, or if they start acting out more than usual.
Yeah, and it's important to always, I suppose, acknowledge children's feelings. If they are angry, instead of telling a child stop, you're kind of stopping their feelings and emotions. So it's really good to kind of, you know, say, I know you're really angry, but you know, I'm not for hitting, and then you can kind of give them another alternative to release their anger.
I often, as a young lad myself, when I would get very frustrated, I'd often scream, just go and give an old scream, and whether that's into a pillow or outside or whatever it is, just to release that pent up frustration. Is that something you would recommend as well, or was I doing it wrong?
No, I think it's important to get it out, to release your anger in some way, because you know, like, anger is an emotion or a feeling that it's normal to have, but yet sometimes it can be difficult for children to express that, or even difficult when children are angry. It can be difficult for parents to hold that space for them.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose it depends on their age as well. But if they're able to write, maybe getting them to write down their feelings as well can be helpful.
Or art, express it through art. Show me what that looks like. Show me how that anger feels.
Okay.
You know,
Right. Okay. So lots of stuff there for people to consider. Carol, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to maybe impart to the parents out there, people that are taking care of kids at this time?
Yeah. I suppose just be kind to yourself. This is a challenging time, and what I would say, this too shall pass. And I suppose to try to turn this time around, to have valuable time with your children, and to have, you know, maybe do things that you always wanted to do yourself, maybe some art or something creative yourself, and to join in with your children, because that can really bring you into the present moment when you're doing something creative.
Right.
And you know, and to involve the children with the baking and the cooking, because children like a sense of purpose as well.
Definitely. Oh, that's a good idea. We actually didn't mention that, to help out with baking and cooking as well. Yeah, it'd be very good stuff.
Them. Yeah.
Some of my greatest memories as a kid are actually when doing stuff, just kind of silly stuff like that, like, you know, sticking an apron on and helping out making something, like, you know, and it can always there's some of the greatest memories. So, Carol, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and for imparting knowledge like that. And yeah, we'll hopefully be talking to you again soon, and we look forward to getting our play therapy services back open and supporting you guys in Galway and Mayo. Well, they were very interesting chats there from Robert from SOS, or Suicide or Survive, and from Carol Daly, who is one of Helplink's play therapists, and we thank them both for their time and for what they do for people in their local and national communities. Yeah, I was just wanted to, before I sign off, I just wanted to say that I think this is a really good time for us all to take a step back and really have a look at how our lives have been and where they are going when it comes to mental health and emotional well-being. This is now both a local and national opportunity for us to really put our mental health to the forefront of what's going on. There's a lot of people that have seen a marked difference in their lives because they're working from home, or whichever, are remote working, or spending more time with their families. And of course there's negatives to things as well, but I think we really need to have a local and national conversation about our mental health and how we're going to go forward. You hear a lot of people say that they're looking forward to going back to normality, but really, was normality what it should have been? I mean, do we need to basically slow down a little bit and as they say, smell the flowers, and be a bit more mindful about how we interact with ourselves and with other people? So yeah, lots to mull over there, and hopefully this show can help in that. And we would love to help as much as we can. So if you ever have any questions, you can email helplink, support@helplink.ie, and just put any questions you might have that you might want answered anonymously, of course, on the radio show. We would be delighted to get our experienced and trained counsellors to support you in that way too. So yeah, please be kind, please be mindful of yourself and others, and yeah, we're nearing hopefully the end, if not the reopening of our lives somewhat. So let's be mindful about how we do that, and how we move forward, and how we treat others. I mean, one of the most important things really about our mental health and emotional well-being is not just about how we treat ourselves, but how we treat others. There can be seen, there's a lot of things going on in the world right now where we're seeing people aren't treating others how they would like to be treated, and the world right now is no place for racism or prejudice or anything like that. Now is a time for us to come together as a species, and our communities, to like we have been coming back together during this time. We've gotten to know our neighbours more, and we've gotten to maybe consider the world a bit more, and our place in it, and let's try and keep that up and make a real difference to everybody's lives. So thank you once again for listening. Thank you to our partner radio stations, and thank you for all our guests for imparting knowledge about the services they provide, and etc. Yeah, so thanks very much, and don't forget to keep your head up.